Do you see what I see?
Nothing.
I agree. Pop's letter. There's a journey beyond reason. Here's Pop. Back in China, his father was this powerful mayor of Canton who became famous for modernizing Canton. His father-in-law was a consultant to the Empress Dowager. But in spite of his pedigreed upbringing, he himself was a bohemian bon vivant. He played flamenco guitar, classical violin. He even sang Italian opera. I mean, what Chinese sings Italian opera back in those days? But anyway, in his bon vivantness, he was speckled with little pearls of wisdom. And here's one of my favorites. He says, every man, every 10 years, should completely reassess his whole life, his visions, his dreams, his fears, vocations, everything. So when I turned 40, it was a perfect time to do a little taking stock. So I went down the list. Career. Even though I was trained as an architect, I was making my living as a graphic designer. Here's one for Chicago, live at Carnegie Hall. And this is Dog and Butterfly for this group called Heart. What I really liked, it bought me time to do my own paintings, which was in those days exploring realms beyond the mundane. This is a Starfield series. So that was my career. In terms of my love life, I met some beautiful women. Some of them inspired paintings. But for some reason, I couldn't get into a deeper commitment, something to look at. So the next thing I was assessing my spiritual life. That was great. I had been meditating for 25 years and including advanced courses up in the Himalayas. That was all great, a pillar in my life. It's a big blessing. But I could never shake this deep melancholy that sort of permeated right down to my bones. What was all that about? I never could get it. I even tried to kind of dignify it by saying, oh, I just have to admit it, I'm a tragic romantic. But however I called it, that misery just kind of blanketed down on me. Physical health, I was blessed with physical health except for one thing. Back here, I had a terrible backache. It had gone on, I think, all the way since high school because of a wrestling accident. But I tried everything, chiropractic, doctors, x-rays, acupuncture, but I always had it with me and I just had to live with it. And when it acted up, I had to sleep in these weird positions on pillows and stuff just to get a little sleep. So as I'm analyzing all this stuff, assessment, I get a phone call. My brother from Berkeley, he says, Fuding, you'd be into this stuff. I just had a great session with this trance medium. I think you should try it. And I thought, wow, my heart just burst with a moment of appreciation. What synchronicity. It happened, I was just reading Seth Speaks by Jane Roberts, a psychic. It's a beautiful book, and I was so inspired that I wanted to say, hey, I want a piece of that kind of experience myself. And then he calls, how perfect. Immediately, another side of me, it's just lambasting me, the rational, logical side. What? What are you doing? Here you're trained as an architect, you're good with engineering and practical matters, and you're going to fall for a soothsayer? They just say anything off the top of their head, flatter your ego just to extract some money out of you. And then the other side of me said, wait, hold it there. You know, like, this is intuition. I'm into meditation, and I'm an artist. I value intuition. And that's when I came back and says, oh, Jesus, pseudoscience. This is so pathetic. All imposters. And I'm saying, all imposters, that means who are they impostoring? That implies authentic ones. And so it went back and forth in my head. At the end, I decided to go to the psychic as a scientific experiment. Cut through all the hearsay, the speculations, the romantic fantasies about what it is and it isn't. Go straight to it, get your direct experience, and then you'll know. So a couple days later, I'm sitting in front of this woman, about 40. She's that psychic of my brother's. And she spends a few moments, centers herself, and then she says, how can I help you? And I said, well, you see, I have this terrible backache. It's kind of ruining my life. And I don't know what to do about it. However, I did read the Tibetan Book of the Dead, and it says, thoughts take form. Maybe my backache has something to do with my own thinking. She says, I think you are having your backache because you're angry at your father. My father? Pop? So funny and why? She doesn't know anything about my father. Blew that $75, but at least I'm being thorough. She says, I think you're mad at your father because he never came home. I thought, wow, that's true. He was never at home as a kid. I don't know how much a father is supposed to be or not be. How did he know that? So what should I do about it? And then she says, well, you got to tell him how you feel. And I said, well, to be practical about it, nobody tells him much of anything nowadays, considering, well, he's been dead for 10 years. She didn't miss a beat. She says, well, then write him a letter. Tell him how you feel. So on the long ride back home, my mind's just reeling. Express anger to my pop? Wow, in Chinese society, you just don't do that. You respect elders, especially parents. I mean, I would bring shame to my whole family. As you well know, Chinese aren't big on guilt, but shame, my God. After all, we've had 5,000 years kind of cultivating this thing. Anyway, so the next day, I'm up an hour earlier than normal and facing this blank sheet of paper, wondering what to do with myself. So finally, I put pen to paper. Dear Pop, I'm 40 years old, and I think it's time for some truth-telling. I think I'm angry at you for not coming home. That was the first page. By the time it was page 3, it was like, where the fuck were you, you goddamn coward? You didn't mind the gate. If you minded the gate, Grandpa wouldn't have come in, wouldn't have terrorized my mom. She wouldn't have had migraines. She wouldn't have to go to hospital. We 5 boys would not have to go to foster homes. And all the violence afterwards, brother beating up brother. You didn't do your fucking job. Oh, I was so fierce. I'm never like this, by the way. I was just writing so intensely. It was with my fists tearing the paper as I went. By the time it came to page 5, I was just weeping, sobbing, chest heaving, like a 10-year-old kid would weep. No, as an adult, I never cried at all, not at his funeral, never. And here I'm weeping, oh, you made me love you so much, and you just stayed away. And I had old memories I completely forgot, like, oh, even with all the beatings, I got all A's. It was just for you, and you didn't even come home to see it. I had to return the report card forged because you didn't come back to sign it, and I got into more trouble. And so I went. I just wept. I mean, it was like so much phlegm ruined up my letter big time. But anyway, just coming out like squeezing toothpaste out of a tube, And then all of a sudden, an insight. All your problems with women have nothing to do with women at all. They have to do with you not trusting love because Pop never came home. And with that, I kind of came to and like, whoa, what happened? I'm looking around, everything's normal. And so I got up to tell my girlfriend, but something was off. Weird, asymmetrical. For the first time in 25 years, no backache. So everything changed thereafter. I mean, the floodgates open, emotions, I can feel life. And all that blanket of misery and tragic romanticness, pew, gone, just like my backache had gone. And then my artwork shifted. In my paintings, it became richer. Willing to look into the inner man, I started painting psychological landscapes. And trusting my perceptions, I began to paint the energy of things as well as their physical forms. It was beautiful, the most mundane thing. Even a garbage can has a glow that could be so beautiful. And then, in terms of my spiritual life, wow, that jumped a level. I was trusting the impulses from my heart more than ever now. And it took me on this path through a number of years and many turns and twists. But eventually, I found myself working with the Toltec shaman, Don Miguel Ruiz. Many of you know him as the author of the Four Agreements. But among the big pyramids, I experienced a monumental breakthrough for me in this ritual, a shamanic ritual called Jump to the Sun. It's a whole big story, but suffice it to say that nothing since then has been quite the same. I woke up from the dream of the planet. I mean, it sounds odd for me to say, but if I died now, I'd die happy. Life well spent. I woke up. I'm free. Thank you, Miguel. Anyway, so after that, love came into my life. Thank God I could trust it and not push it away like I did before. So everything has shifted. We're in pivotal times. We all know that. We have choices to make. There's important decisions to make. So what I found for myself is that no matter how confusing the world is and all the dust and smog and all that, I find myself since that letter asking simple questions of myself like, is now the time to use reason or intuition? They both have their place. Or, this that I want, is it serving my ego or my heart? These are the kind of simple questions that can completely change lives. So as a parting note, let me just say, if you choose to go down this path, look out. It may take you on a path that will lead you all the way to self-fulfillment and personal freedom. Thank you. Bon voyage.